Yo guys, what is up? It is Anna Louise. If you have me on my main channel, it's Anna Louise. Then of course you know who I am. If you don't, go subscribe to me on my main channel. But yeah, hey, hi, hello, how are ya? Today we are doing another true crime video, which I am so excited about, like literally so excited. I know you guys love my true crime videos, and I've had so many of you guys asking me like, when are you going to do another one? We want to see another one. And I have been researching this next fellow that I'm about to tell you guys about. One thing that to note is the reason why it's taken me so long is because every time I start to research, I fall asleep. And no, it's not because it's not interesting, because it so is. I just am really weird and will be like in the middle of something, and then I'll wake up at 2 in the morning with everything still on, like all my lights and everything, and you get the picture. But I have everything ready to go. I've been super excited to film this, so let's just go ahead and get right into the video. Alright, so today's true crime video is over John Wayne Gacy, or technically otherwise known as the Killer Clown or Pogo the Clown. So John Wayne Gacy is another one that I've been quite interested in for a while. Y'all know my top favorite ones to research are Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy. I also really enjoy researching about Richard Ramirez, and so next on my list is John Wayne Gacy. And he has really made a few different cameos, I would say cameos, in some movies and TV shows about clowns, such as American Horror Story. Twisty the Clown is pretty much based off of John Wayne Gacy, which is quite interesting. And then also, what is also quite interesting, if you have me on my main channel, I have Twisty the Betta-Fish named after Twisty the Clown. So apparently this is one big circle, apparently. But anyway, he was known for being the Killer Clown. So John Wayne Gacy was born on March 17th of 1942 in Chicago, Illinois. And he was the second child out of 3, and his parents are John Stanley Gacy and Marion Elaine Robinson, which was her maiden name. And yeah, so John Wayne Gacy was the second of 3 children. He had 2 sisters, and as a child it was really rough for him. And to be honest, that's literally the running theme of all the other serial killers, at least that I have talked about before on this channel. They all have something going on in their childhood that is wrong. And for John, basically, his childhood was very, very sad, and I literally felt so bad for him. Like every little thing I would read, like as it increased in more bad thing after more bad things after more bad things, I would just be like, oh my gosh, like I felt so bad. So basically, as a child, John's father was really glad that he had a son. He really wanted a son, because, you know, he had had a daughter, and then, I mean, after John Wayne Gacy Jr. came another daughter. He was happy to finally have a son. So he wanted to do boy things with this son. He wanted to, you know, go out and just do like manly things. And John Wayne did not, okay, what am I gonna call him? Because it does not feel weird to call, or it does not feel right to call him John Wayne. I'll just call him John. So John did not like doing that at all. He would literally rather be gardening with his mom. She had a garden that she absolutely loved to tend to. He would rather be doing that, or cooking with his sisters. So more of what was considered feminine things to do. So every time that, you know, his dad would want to go fishing or something of that matter that was considered more manly, John wouldn't want to do that. And it really bothered his father to no extent. And on top of that, something that also made things hard when it came to his life as a kid, especially in school, is that John actually had a heart problem. And because of this, it made it hard to, you know, exert energy and like run around and play on the playground like, you know, the other children. And that just made me feel so sad too. And his father basically just saw him as a big disappointment, which is really heartbreaking. And because of this, his father actually, you know, abused him and different kind of things like that. And basically his father was also an alcoholic, so that definitely didn't help the matter. And although he was this way towards John, John still wanted to impress his father. He wanted to make him proud. So as he grew up, he also was just kind of confused as well on if he liked girls or boys, and he really did try to hide this from his, his father and his different family members. So he, dated a girl throughout school and kind of things like that just to hide it. So eventually in his teenage years, John moved away and went to Las Vegas, Nevada. He got a job in a mortuary. So he worked like, working with dead people, and he basically had a cot that he would sleep on, like in the embalming room. And when he was doing that job is when something terribly gross happened. One night he actually crept into the area with a dead body, a teenage boy, and yeah. So after that incident, it kind of bothered him, and I don't know really what it did to his mind, but basically he decided that he wanted to move back home. So when he went home, he actually was in another courtship, one that actually turned into marriage, and he got married in September to a woman named Marlon. And during his courtship though with Marlon, he joined a group called the JCs, where he worked really hard. He also was in kind of a political role. He talked to a lot of political members in the community and worked really hard in this organization that he was in. But when he was in it, he had more encounters with men behind Marlon's back. And of course, like I said, they did get married in September. Oh, I have hair on my face. Oh my gosh. Alright, so like I said, they did get married in September, and after that, Marlon's father actually bought some fried chicken restaurants, which sounds really good to me, and he began to manage those as well. So he was working really hard at what he was doing. He just wanted to please his father. I mean, that is just literally what kept happening during the scenario. So he was in this group, mingling with political people, now managing these restaurants, and now had a wife. And though his father did really become proud that that he did have a wife and stuff like that, and even more prouder when his wife got pregnant. So they were going to be a family now. But then when it came time for that baby to be born, he didn't show up to the birth. Instead, he went out to a bar and got drunk and went home with a guy. So that's what happened while his poor wife was going into labor with their first child. But that first relationship and marriage did not work out. Actually, they did end up getting a divorce because during this time, John continued to have little rendezvous and parties with men and doing a lot of, inappropriate stuff. I'm trying to keep this very family friendly, but anyway, some really bad stuff. And anyway, they did end up getting a divorce. So basically, I'm gonna go ahead and skip to the very first thing that Gacy actually got in trouble for, and this was in August of 1967 when he invited the son of one of his fellow JC members to his house, and he was a minor. He was just 15 years old, and his name was Donald Voorhees. Now he invited him to his house and made a move on him, which was so not right, obviously. And now it took Voorhees a little while to actually admit what happened with Gacy, but finally he did in 1968, and then that is when, like I said, he became clean. And alright guys, so my stupid camera died, so I had to plug it up and go eat dinner while it charged for a little bit. But I'm back, and I don't necessarily remember 100% where I was at, but I do know that I talked about how John got put into prison, and his wife did leave him, and he got his sentenced for 10 years. And this was because of the young boy who, finally came out to his father telling him what happened. And of course, Gacy tried to get out of prison, say that, it wasn't his fault and all that kind of stuff. But of course, they didn't believe him, and he got put for 10 years in prison. And his wife and kid, they left him. And so anyway, he was in prison, and while in prison, he became the model prisoner, as they would say. He was really on the good side of a lot of people, and because of this, all he had to serve was 18 months. 18 months of a 10-year sentence. Love that. Great stuff. So anyway, he got out of prison. So anyway, after he got out of prison, I do want to mention that his father has passed away by this point, but he got out of prison, he went back home, and he ended up marrying again. And right before he got married, his mom like moved out of the house, so obviously him and his new wife would have the house to themselves, and he got married again on June 22nd. So basically by this point, he's been married once, lost his wife with his kids, you know, he's been in prison, only had to spend 18 months of a 10-year sentence. He's went through all this stuff with his childhood and his heart issues, along with obviously, you know, pretty much at least bisexual, at least that, if not completely, you know, gay, and then completely letting down his father, just all these kind of different things. And now we are going to move on to his murder. So his very first murder was 16-year-old Timothy Jack McCoy, and this was on January 2nd, 1972. And so this happened when the boy was traveling. Gacy just kind of picked him up and said that he would like get him back to the bus in time to get back to where he was going, but obviously that didn't happen. He just like felt the urge to kill, and he did, and he said that it was like a thrill for him, and of course thus then it just didn't stop. So of course he got married, and eventually he came out to his wife as actually being bisexual. So at least at this point in time, you know, he came out, and his wife eventually divorced him because he would not stop bringing teenage boys into the house and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, she knew he was bisexual, but I mean, like, other than that, you know, he was bringing in teenage boys, like minors, into the house, and so they just mutually agreed to a divorce. And around this time too, he did become Pogo the Clown. He was in a group of like people who would dress up as clowns to go to children's birthday parties and entertain. So he actually named himself Pogo the Clown, and he really enjoyed doing this a lot. I mean, he would do this at parties and like at hospitals and kind of stuff like that, and he said that it was kind of a thing to like kind of like an escape or something to kind of regress from his childhood and everything that used to happen, and he really did enjoy it. But going ahead and skip into January the 2nd of 1972, where he completed his first murder. So this was a murder where he kind of picked up the guy who was young. Obviously his name was Timothy McCoy. He picked him up. This guy was traveling, and it was just that time where, you know, things weren't as scary as they are today. You could like go with random strangers or talk to random strangers. Just things were not the same, and so I guess that's why this boy went with him. But obviously things did not go as planned, and John Wayne Gacy completed his very first murder by stabbing, and it was said that he just got a major thrill from it and thus knew that he could not stop. So the second victim was pretty much unidentified, but was from like anywhere from like 14 to 16 years old, and he ended up strangling this guy. And one thing to note with his victims, this was one like key thing, and I mean, I don't understand how Gacy thought that people could have been fooled, because he buried these guys like in his yard and under his house. And that didn't make sense, and he tried to make up excuses during the time of like just interviews and times of like in his trial, and just say like, oh, like la-di-da-da, these were here. But that was just one thing that really did not help him. But he did bury these guys in his yard and like under his house. So with a lot of these murders too, a lot of things kind of were similar, such as like strangulation was definitely the most common. And back to also what I talked about burying them under the house, each body was kind of like buried under a certain part of Gacy's house, like one like under the bedroom, one directly under the hall, under the kitchen, under the laundry room. It was weird and kind of spaced out to be like that. And he kind of just had years of just killing, and he killed and killed and just didn't stop. And one thing to notice about you know, him being called like the killer clown was that he often, when he did kill his victims, he was dressed as a clown. This was very common. He would put on the clown suit while he killed the person, and that's just really creepy as can be. But that was one thing that was kind of why he got the notice and name of the killer clown. So now let's just go ahead and fast forward a little bit too close to when the time that he like became investigated and then taken into custody. So basically Gacy did own a construction business, which, you guessed it, hired like young males in their teenage years. So he was at a pharmacy one time, and this young boy around the age of 15 years old heard that Gacy, you know, was needing like to hire somebody, in which he told his mom about. So the mom knew, you know, like, oh, my son may have a job. And he did talk to Gacy, and Gacy said, okay, like, yeah, you can have the job, like, come over, whatever. So keep in mind though that this young man, his mom knew where he was going. So once he failed to return, because obviously the unfortunate happened, the mom at least kind of knew like he was supposed to go do this construction job, and so they had like something to go off of, which of course Gacy was behind. And anyway, when he was questioned about this, he obviously denied it and made up a lot of lies, which later were confirmed to be lies by the people that he had mentioned in his story. So nothing at all checked to be, and the police just had a really good feeling that he was involved in the disappearance of this young man. And they kind of looked over his record and things of the past, and of course they came across where he had, you know, been in prison for that short amount of time due to the 15-year-old boy, the issue that happened a while ago. So this is like a similar thing, both 15-year-old boys, and of course luckily the one guy got away, but this one was very unfortunate not to. But they still recognized that he had obviously been in trouble before, and so they got a warrant to go to Gacy's house and search it. And so I bet you guys can guess what happened when they went to his house. And actually, you're wrong, nothing actually happened. So they didn't search pretty much, you know, good enough, and so they did leave. But they actually did continue to kind of surveillance Gacy. They just did a whole bunch of different kind of things, more digging into the disappearance, more clues, and just detective work, obviously, like they would do. And it came to a point where they had a map. Now this map was pretty much laid out from 1 to 12. There were different numbers, and the number 4 was actually on Gacy's house. They had Gacy back in for a polygraph test, into which he basically denied everything and said that, you know, nothing was there. But of course no one believed him, and so they just pretty much stopped the polygraph test right there and got permission on where to dig, because they knew that they were getting closer and this map was telling them something. So then they went digging. So basically a lot of different things happened, and they got a lot of evidence down. And even with the second house, like, tour and search, they really didn't find a lot, other than actually one of the investigators went to flush the toilet, and to which he noticed that there was the smell of what could be rotting corpses coming from the heating like area in the house. But other than that, nothing really like much did happen. But following this, Gacy actually did go and confess to his attorney. He basically began rambling and just kind of going on and off, and he had had alcohol in his system at this point, and basically did start confessing, but said that like all of these boys were like hustlers and liars and prostitutes and all this bunch of mess. And still he gave up on what he did. Later on in this like confession, Gacy did fall asleep because of the alcohol that he consumed, and when he later awoke, the people actually asked him like, oh, okay, so do you remember like confessing to 30+ murders? And he said, I can't think about this right now. He's got stuff. He said, I have stuff to do. And so he left. So although this did happen, they finally got, you know, another warrant to search specific parts of his house. So they did do this, especially with all of the new clues and stuff like that that they had, and they did end up finding a rotten arm. And when they did this, they stated that they thought that this place was full of kids and to go ahead and arrest him. So finally, John Wayne Gacy Jr. was arrested and charged of killing all these different people. He went on trial, and it was said that he killed 30+ boys. And did he get away with it? No. He was sentenced to the death penalty for death by lethal injection. And I mean, he did have a lot of interviews during prison, and some to which, you know, he said that he did not classify himself anywhere close to being like Bundy or Manson or any of those, and that he actually hated those. And then he kind of just had that personality as if he like did the right thing, or he just didn't do anything at all. And he like kept this I'm not a bad guy persona all through like his prison time. But he actually was executed. I swear if my battery dies one more time. But anyway, he was executed on May 10th of 1994 by lethal injection. But yeah, that is pretty much it of the story of John Wayne Gacy Jr., aka Pogo the Clown, aka the Killer Clown. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Please, please, please let me know what you want to see down below. But other than that, please make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and like I said, subscribe to my channel, please, and join the family, and make sure to subscribe to my main channel as well. And I hope you have a great day or night or whenever you may be watching this, and I will see you guys in my next video.